really important. And then there is a scout. Actually, scouting means it just like before the recording you went to the location and recording some sort of sound, and it is really good for you. Is this thing happen when you are doing something like a recording some sort of ambient noise? And yes, so that is scouting is kind of like a things. Scouting is happening for the location, not for the audio. And it's not because audio is really important, but scouting things is whatever. And then there is a room tone. That means it is always good idea to record ambient and room tone. This can be used to help find the gap in the sound, to help the sound consistent throughout the footage. Okay. I don't really understand what is exactly a room tone. Yeah. And then there is a music. Right now we are talking about the music. Okay, whatever the film you are generating or making, music is really important, and you do understand is like what is the music, is this message. Okay, that means if you have some sort of a romantic couple is doing something dance in slow motion, so you are putting something really romantic song, not just heavy music or EDM kind of stuff, because it's not that fast. It is everything happens really slow motions. So that means you are understanding your footage and try to maintain the balance between your footage and sound. Okay, so selecting the proper sound is kind of like a judging a sound. Okay, so it's important to you. Okay, and you do need to understand these things. Consider a music role in scene. What is exactly happening in the scene? Try to understand and maintain the proper sound for it. Okay, because it's look really good, it's look good for you, it's look good for the scene also. Because no one likes a romantic scene and listening some sort of heavy metal song. Definitely no one will really expect this thing. Okay, define the mood. Yes, obviously the mood is kind of like a love and kind of like a really romantic. So set the sound is kind of like a really low and really not too much high, because you are maintaining the proper emotions. You are setting the proper emotions to the audience, so you do understand the mood. Okay, selecting the genre, I definitely says consider your audience. Yes, and don't steal the music. Yes, copyright strike is always happen when you are stealing the music. So I'm not recommend that you are stealing some sort of Bollywood music. No, don't do that. It's just like whatever you are doing, whatever you are making, try to copyright your sound. Try to understand this sound is kind of like a really good for you or not good for you, or is this music is royalty free or a copyright free music, and then you can use it. If you are not, if you are using some sort of copyright music, that means it is kind of like a really difficult for you, and some sort of case file is also happening, and some sort of loyal things law. It's kind of like a breaking the law. Okay, you cannot use some sort of another music. So don't steal the music. Always buy, or it's just like always use some sort of royalty free music or no copyright music. And then there is sound effect. Okay, most sound effects are added in the afterward, and there are the huge library available. Add what you need. However, it can always be recorded on your own. This can be possible, known as a falling. Sound effect is kind of like a doing some sort of sound to the footage. Okay, because most of the footage doesn't record the sound. Like a drone actually doesn't record the sound. So basically, how should we set the audio to that drone footage? So that means that means at that time we are using that times we are using sound effect, and sound effect is kind of like that is the sound of dog barking, wind noise, water noise, or traffic music sound. So those are kind of like the sound, and when you are using your sound effect on your on your when you are using in sound effect on your footage, it looks really good, trust me. So use sound effect when it necessary, okay, and more and more sound, it will gives you natural looks, it gives you really better, okay. So use sound effect, does not rely on the camera recorder, because it cannot record everything. It just record for the actor or record for the whatever I am speaking, but it cannot record the ambient sound. But when some sort of things happen, so it just like use some sort of third party sound effect, because it's really important. And when we are using some sort of sound effect, that means we are falling. And what is exactly falling? That means we are creating some sort of voice, some sort of sound, okay. Actually, the Jack Foley was the developer of the sound effect, and in the technique used in the filmmaking, he is created with the developing unique method to performing a sound effect live in a sanctuary with this picture during the film with post production. His reputed some sound can be anything from the swinging clothing and footstepping and squishing door and breaking the glass. It's kind of like a sound effect. And Jack Foley is the kind of father of the sound effect, yes, because he creates those sound, and and everybody knows it's kind of like a Foley work or Foley artist, because at his name, because his name is Jack Foley. Then there is automated dialogue replacement, that is kind of like a automatic. This process is pre-recording the dialogue by the original actor and replace with the actor in another filming process. It's kind of like a really advanced setting. We are cannot understanding about ADR, because it's kind of like a really technical stuff. We just like replacing sound to the another guy. So that means and matching with the lip sync called ADR. Okay, just understanding. Sound editing, that means we are layman terms. Sound editing is about the collecting the sound needed to the film without editing. You just 100 just have sound from the set, the actual recording decibels. Then there is industrial noise. Industrial noise is actually too much, yes, because heavy machinery is operated over there and they make some sort of noise, okay. And actually people are talking and equipments, and actually the too much noise that we cannot talk to the phones also in the industry, and it has almost like a 110 industrial noise, 110 decibel, okay. Then there is a jet plane. Okay, jet plane is kind of like a really noisy. Like you can sense the jet is actually creating very too much noise, because it. I don't really understand what is exactly happening in the jet, but aeroplane and jet is kind of like taking so much noise. Okay, and also is a bigger jet gets really bigger noise. Okay, so when their plane is taking off, it creates almost like a 120 decibels. Obviously, in front of people, it's just like getting uh, uh, deaf by hearing this thing, because the sound is too much. It's like 120 decibel is really bigger. Then there is a 130 decibels, and 130 decibel is actually a gunshot or metal concert. Metal concert, you don't really know what is exactly metal concert. Metal concert is kind of like the Linkin Park, or I don't really know what is exactly metal concert, but I do realize that because Linkin Park is kind of like the rock music, metal concert is kind of like something really different. I don't know. But gunshot, when we are hearing something, someone fire at someone, so the pistol is kind of making some sort of noise, and that noise has some sort of intensity. The intensity has a 130 decibel intensity, so it is really very big sound. Okay, so that is called the decibel scales. Okay, after the 130, it cannot say that we cannot hear after the 130, or if we hear the 130 it will be, I don't know, but the scale is 0 to 130. Okay, so yeah. dB is a comparison into the log rather than the linear scale. Simplified, this means that it is ensured to give a real life example to the decibel rather than just a number. Okay, so this skill actually understanding how much sound how much sound intensity at some places. So that is called the number for the understanding, for the better understanding. Decibels and sound equipment. 0 decibel also depends on the setting, context of the situation. For instance, when dealing with a professional sound equipment, 0 decibel usually refers to the loudest level before the destruction began. I don't really understand this term. Yeah. There is a one person says a really big words. Okay, and that word is really important for the filmmaker. The man name, sorry, I don't says that name quickly as he says, uh, if you talk to any director, they say music is a 50% of the movie. Yes, and it is actually really important because in the film, sound is really important, and most of the filmmaker is kind of like a really not gonna interesting because when you are shooting something and something went bad, so you can recover from the camera because camera has lots of things like it's some sort of if I record a video at 480 pixels and it is kind of like a happen in the mistakes, but we need a 1080 pixels. So what do, we just go to the Premiere and scale a 480 to 1080p, and that's it, we can fix the problem. Okay, but in the sound we cannot do something like that. If it is record in bad setting, it is always be in bad setting, it cannot be upward, it cannot be downward. It just like it was bad, it was just bad, we cannot repair or recover anything. So sound is really important. Okay, so 50% is really 50% stakes when you are setting a movie, and that man, he says Hans Zimmer. Hans Zimmer is kind of like my favorite music director. He creates a really very amazing sound, and when I see his music, I feel like, dude, what the music it is. It was really great, really amazing, and I was really blessed by seeing his talent, and it was way even better. Trust me, it is really good. Hans Zimmer music is always be my okay. Most of the films like Inceptions and Interstellar and Superman versus Spider-Man versus Superman versus Batman, and then and there are lots of movies like Interstellar, Tenet, and then Pirates of the Caribbean. The theme song actually made up by this guy Hans Zimmer. So, and then there's the Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 1, 2, and then there is Spider-Man, and then there is a Transformers. Actually, he done really lots of things with the music in a really high-end films, and yeah, this talent, when we see his music, we definitely feel that way. And Hans Zimmer is not just making some sort of just a music. No, he made a music for the particular emotions, and he print that emotions, and it will increase the value of the footage. Okay, when we are seeing his music, and it is really great. Usually Kung Fu Panda, he's also done. He also put this music on the Kung Fu Panda also. And that's why we are laugh too much, we feel that character Panda too much because of his music, and his music is really great. Trust me, if you are watching this, you just go to YouTube and search about Hans Zimmer and listen some music. It was really good, trust me. Sound cannot be easily repaired in the past. Make sure you get right at the time of your recording. Trust me, as I say earlier, sound is a really important because it's like a video we can recover, like if we make some sort of mistakes, so we can repair it. Okay, because why we cannot take so much serious about sound, because that we cannot see the sound, we just hear the sound. Okay, uh, basically whatever we are thinking is like a visual that we can see, and when we are seeing something we can judge that this scene is kind of like a really good or this scene is kind of like a really bad. But actually audio is kind of like the audio is judging by the ears, and we cannot judging by the ears, we just kind of like a look and hear at the same time, then we are judging. Okay, but we are just depend on our ears and we are try to judge some sort of sound. We are kind of like ignoring that fact, we just like okay, let it be, let it decide in the past. Okay, but that is a mistake has to be happened, and they does in every filmmaker. Okay, recording is on. Yeah, recording is on. Actually, my father called me, so that's why I have to. Okay, so we do understand about these things. Is sound cannot be repaired in the past. Okay, so basically when we are filming something, we do need a sound engineer, sound recordist, because they understand sound really well. And as a filmmaker you do need to understand the importance of the sound. When you are recording, you set your setting at the higher, that everything is record quickly as if possible. Okay, so do understand these things. Then there is audio level. Okay, what is exactly audio level? Level is related to the overall level of the sound, and can be broken down into the treble, bass, tone, etc. Level are visuals to help ensure that your sound is neither too high or neither too low. However, level sound not be your only way to monitoring the sound. Okay, actually, there is always a audio level. Okay, when we are recording some sort of sound, and we are playing back these things, we can understand there is a audio level. And what is audio level? That means we can hear how much audio level is much bigger or much lower. Okay, so basically we do understand while we are filming, we understand these things. Okay, so there is a level. Okay, there is a green, yellow and red. Okay, you are seeing this thing. Okay, so that is red, that is a yellow, and that is a that is a green, yellow and red. Okay, and it can actually appear in Premiere too when we are editing things. Editing it just like audio level has some sort of dialog box in the corner of the left, bottom left. So at that time you are hearing the audio level, it is good, it is bad, so you do understand. Okay, so they in that chart that always says that always your audio level is set to the -12 to -20 decibel. Okay, and do not cross the yellow line. It is always in the behind some sort of yellow line. Do not cross the red. If the audio level is kind of going to the red, so that means your quality of the audio is kind of like a not is good. Okay, trust me. So basically you do need to set your audio level is kind of like the minus 12 decibel to 12 minus 20 decibel. Actually this setting is already available in the most of the microphone or shotgun or boom mic. Actually some of the microphones are kind of like a really advanced. They can analyze the sound and set the setting according to its set the setting according to the set. He can understand the volume and set his setting according to his measure. Like there is some sort of really loud music, so at that time some sort of advanced microphone set their setting to uh, um, uh, audio gain is kind of like a really getting much lower. Okay, so this kind of like a technical terms happens, so we do need to understand. But for the filmmaker, you are definitely need to put your audio level from minus 12 decibel to minus 20 decibel. Okay, that is really important. Okay, so what is too loud? Sound will become disturbed and drip. You cannot revive. It is lost sound. And too low, you will hear the hiss if your sound is too low. This can be removed with the noise reduction. However, the sound will still is poor. Okay, so too low and too high is it's two things. So you know this thing, what is too low, too high. If you are hearing something really too much high sound, that means you are clipping the sound. That means you cannot hear properly and everything is really noisy. And yes, and where is too low, that means it's completely dead silence and you cannot hear anything. So yes. And then there is clipping. Actually, clipping is when the sound is too loud and it is lost in clip of the top of the bottom range. Visually this is the easily to the spot. Audibly it will be produced and currently the sound lost sound cannot be revived. What is exactly clipping? Okay, so clipping is okay. I'm understanding this situation by the image. Okay, just focus. Okay, so this is the sound you can hearing, that is a sound wave actually. Okay, actually this is the sound wave is actually exist. Okay, and that is called good sound. Okay, and that is the wavelength, and you can see there is so many disturbance over there. Okay, and how this thing happened, because of that the sound intensity was too much high and the audio level is clipped, and that means this sound is too much that the recorder cannot handle the intensity of the sound. Okay, so at that things, it's kind of like the clipped sound has to be happen, and that means a really bad sound. Okay, so it won't be happen like this thing. Okay, so you do need to understand. And right now we are talking about some sort of equipment. Equipment is used in filmmaking. So what is equipment? First of all, headphones. Okay, headphones and sorry, handheld podcast mic. Handheld podcast mic is really important for the podcast also. Most of the radio and radio jockey and RJ people are use this podcast. It has a really high quality of sound, and it is kind of like a directional sound. It's a unidirectional or bidirectional mic, and it's really good, and it's actually capturing a vocals, and mostly it is used for the radio. So handheld podcast is really good. Then there is a shotgun mic. Shotgun mic actually used in mostly films and YouTube and some sort of short films also, and serials. Actually, what is exactly shotgun mic? Shotgun mic is the guy is kind of like the holding his mic, and in the end is kind of like the shotgun, and is covered with the fur. Okay, and that fur is really important for the cancelling the noise, and it can continuously focus on the actor's voice. So that is called shotgun mic. Okay, Then there is a lavalier mic. What is exactly a lavalier? That means some sort of mic is inside here. Okay, this mic is actually capture for the vocal, not the ambient sound. Okay, and it just capture only just a 2.5 feet circumference distance from this mic. Okay, is actually used in interviews or some sort of, yeah, mostly interviews, and or mostly anchor. They because this guy is always away from the camera, and that's why he uses lavalier mic. Okay, and it's kind of like a really good, really amazing sound quality has to be captured from this. Then there is external digital recorder. External digital recorder, that means some sort of recorder is here, like a Zoom or Tascam is kind of like the really external recorder. This has some sort of mic, and it can be record just pressing the button, and we are just recording things. So that is called external digital recorder. This is also available was there. So these are the equipments. Okay, and then there is a directional mic, unidirectional mic, the unidirectional, sorry, omnidirectional mic, then cardio and hypercardio and bidirectional. Actually, some sort of mic has a record from the sound coming from one wave, not the other another wave. And why this is because of that key, it's just like it's focus on the only one thing. Okay, like I am podcasting, or I'm some sort of RJ. Hey, so I'm podcasting, I'm some sort of RJ. So it's just like I am sitting at a mic at in front of my mic. So that's why my the direction of the mic is always from my side, and it cannot capture from the another side of sound. It cannot capture the sound of the another side. So basically those are the omnidirectional sound. Then there is a cardioid, then the hypercardioid, then the unidirectional cardioid, and then bidirectional cardioid. Actually these are kind of like the things when you are setting whatever the camera you have, you can set the directional of the sound picking. Okay, and mostly these things is actually you can set in the post production also. But I'm not recommending this thing because a directional mic is kind of like a really important, and you do need to understand what is a directional mic and what is not. But mostly directional mic is kind of like not used in filmmaking. They are used in radio or podcast. They are not used in filmmaking. Okay, but some of the YouTubers and some of the filmmakers use those mics. But mostly the filmmaker use shotgun mic and lavalier mic because it's really important. Okay, so yeah. And then there is a headphone. Yes, trust me, headphone is a really important for understanding how much sound quality it is. Yes, because of that we just record and we just think it is good. Okay, and we cannot review the sound. And when we are at home and we are editing and we feel that the sound is too much, and it is too much noise that we cannot hear anything at all. So that's why we do need to hear that sound at that moment. Okay, so it just like headphone is really important. And basically not just any headphone, just noise cancellation headphone before that, because it can cancel the any other noise and just focus on whatever the sound is recording. Okay, actually my dog is kind of like doing something with my tripod. So he's messing with the, and that's why the frame is other right now. Is just thing happened again. Alright. Five basic rule for the better audio, and what are they? Get closer. Okay. It's just like everything sounds really good when you are setting the subject to the closer. Okay, and when you get really closer, that is really important. Because when you are getting closer, you can achieve a really good quality of sound. Okay, So get closer, but not too much closer. But when you are getting too much closer, the actor will get some scary things, or some sort of things happens to the actor, or you are in the middle of the frame. So you just try to maintain the proper distance between the frame and your mic. Okay, because this thing happened when you are setting mic too close to the actor, and it's in the frame, so it doesn't look really good. So try to maintain the proper distance. Okay. Headphone, I already told you, headphone is really important. Monitor, obviously you are setting the monitor, because visualizing is the only way, visualizing and hearing is the only way to judging the proper sound. So a monitor is really important. Monitor set the audio level, set the understanding the proper audio level, and monitor, because when you are monitoring the sound, you can understand how much decibel it is, and how much we can repair. Or hello, hello, this is the English session. Right now we are doing this for past few days. It's the second day today. Actually, English session we were recording from the past few days, and but it's actually a video format. Yeah, and since we are recording video format, so this day is twice. Okay, it's a second day. So and there are so many things I feel really improvement when I does that, and I feel really good. Yeah, in the morning I am kind of like really productive in the morning. So that's why I use this time to improve myself even better. So that's why I'm doing it. And just so right now, yesterday I understand about sound, and how important of the sound, and what should we do, what should things do we need to understand for before you making travel films or any other kind of things. Okay, so it's just like sound is really important, and I didn't even understand, I didn't even know about these things, what is exactly a sound. And but I do know that there is a when you are filming, 50% of the visual footages depend on the sound. So basically sound is really important, but I didn't really get that too much. I know, but I didn't really understand the sound even better before. But yesterday I learn about these things, and right now I'm telling you. So what is exactly a sound? Okay, sound is the vibration. This vibration travel through the medium. Most commonly sound travel through air, but can also travel through water, metal, etc. The vibration that is produced and reach out our ear known as wave. What is exactly a sound? Actually, sound is kind of like the what we are hearing, that is sound. Okay, first thing do we need to understand is like for the traveling the sound, we do need some sort of medium. And what is medium? Medium means right now I'm talking and you are listening, and listening means is a microphone of the mobile phone is receiving the sound, which is actually a medium between me and microphone. Is that medium is air. So that's why for the traveling of the sound waves requires a medium. Okay, so most of the time air is always and there is also a sound travel through the liquid also and solid also. So basically for the travel for the sound, uh, uh, for the traveling of the sound, we definitely need a medium, and medium is really necessary. Okay, without medium it won't be travel. Like an example, you cannot hear anything to the space. Okay, so because in the space is completely vacuum there, and you cannot hear anything at all. So basically you just rely on the signals. Okay, so in up there in the space, astronaut, they were talking through the electronic signals. Okay, so yes, it cannot it cannot hear anything at all. Yes, so yeah. and mostly the sound is actually travel through the waves. Yeah, properly you didn't even know understand what is a wave. That is that's ups and downs, so that is called wave. Okay, so most of the sound is travel through medium, and mostly they are in the form of waves. Actually, when you see the light has also has a waves. Okay, basically every medium, every things that we can see, the light and sound, actually they are kind of like the waves. Okay, and but why we couldn't see this thing? Because what is exactly wave, what is exactly they pass. Okay, so sound is kind of like the vibrations. Okay, so vibration has some sort of, it's like that is vibrations. Okay, and light is also has some sort of vibration, but sound has a really wavelength of the sound is really much bigger than the wavelength of light, because light wavelength is really tiny. You cannot see yourself, you cannot see from the microscopic, you cannot see. It's like a you want to see some of the light photon was really tiny bit. You do need a ultrasonic microscope for seeing this thing, but I don't even know is this thing actually exist or not. But light is kind of like the photon. Yeah, it's kind of like the photon. It's photon is not the element, it's not the atom, it's kind of like the photon. I don't really know proper understanding about the light, but right now we are talking about the sound, and what I know about the sound, I'm talking about it. So yes. Okay, so basically, and there is a one thing we do need to understand: sound is actually mostly people say is a frequency. And what is frequency related with the sound? Okay, so frequency sometimes referred to as a pitch is the number of the time per sound that sound pressure waves repeated to itself. The unit of frequency is called hertz. Human which normal hearing can hear a sound between the 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay, so what is actually a frequency? Okay, so I don't really properly understanding these things. What is exactly a frequency? Frequency refers to as a pitch. Sometimes in this situation, the define says is some sort of pitch. Okay, what is exactly a pitch? When I'm speaking like peak. Okay, so that is a pitch. Okay, so when you have some sort of sound, at every sound has some sort of frequency. Okay, like I'm talking right now as some sort of frequency. That is this called that sound will have some sort of other frequency. Okay, so each sound refers a different frequency with different sounds. Okay, so my frequency is always different than other people's sound. Okay, so actually in this term, basically we were naturally saying my sound and your sound is kind of like a different. Okay, yes, but in technical term they are says like my frequency and your frequency is kind of like a different. Okay, so basically in the science area, the sound is actually called a frequency, or should I say pitch. Okay, and a frequency has a unit called hertz. Okay, hz. Okay, the normal human actually hear 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Okay, so what is exactly a low frequency and high frequency? Okay, so what is exactly low frequency? That means the wavelength is some sort of longer wavelength. Okay, that is called low frequency. But pitch is really small. Then high frequency, that means the wavelength is kind of like a really simultaneous. That is called high frequency. And I don't really understand low frequency and high frequency. What does it mean? I do understand the wavelength of the low frequency is much bigger than the higher frequency. I do understand, but I didn't really properly says that thing ki I sounds like this sound has a low frequency and this sound has a high frequency. I don't really understand. So then what is the aptitude? Okay, there are so many defines and so many things, but we do need to understand relates about. We are not talking about sound and stuff and sound science. No. We just talking about the sound which is important for our films, and what the character, what should we understand before we filming everything. Okay, so we do need to understand basic thing about the sound. We just understand about the simple terms for use in while recording a sound. Okay, so there is another term is aptitude, and what is amplitude. What is amplitude? Amplitude, that means the loudness of the sound. Okay, so basically I'm talking and my sound is not too much high, but basically you can hear this thing. But if you want to hear almost like 1,000 people in front of you, so it's just like you need to plug an amplitude. So what is amplitude? Amplitude is just like multiply the wavelength. Okay, the same wavelength, it can multiply to the higher loudness. Okay, and it creates some sort of loud, so that is called amplitude. Okay, basically when we hear some sort of song which is kind of like a really loud music, so actually how the loud music creates, the loud music is created by the amplitude. Okay, so when you want to increase your volume, basically you are increasing your amplitude of the sound. Okay, because basically the singer won't really sing that loud too much. Okay, so basically we put the amplitude to the song, that we can increase the volume. That means we can increase the amplitude of the song. Okay, when we have low amplitude, it has a really higher wavelength. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, higher wavelength. Okay, you do understand where I'm talking about what's the wavelength. Okay, and that is the that is the lower wavelength, and that is the higher wavelength. That means the wavelength, the distance between end to end wavelength is kind of like a really closer to the lower amplitude. Okay, the amplitude of the sound waves determine the loudness of the loudness or volume. A larger amplitude means the louder volume, and smaller amplitude means softer volume. Okay, so that means we are increasing the volume, that means we are increasing the amplitude. When we are decreasing the volume, that means we are decreasing the amplitude. Okay, then the another term is envelope. What is envelope? The envelope describes how sound changes over the time. For example, piano key, when you struck head, create a near immediate initial sound which gradually increase in the volume to zero. Attack consists of change occurring before the sound reaches its steady state. Intensity. Sustain refers to the steady state for the sound, and it is maximum intensity, and decay is the rate at which it fades to the silence. What is actually envelope? Okay, when we are on our recorder, when we just started our recording, we sounds like something really the sound is kind of like really much bigger than we expected. Okay, and then some sort of decreasing of the sound level. Okay, and then the volume is kind of like a really constant. Okay, and then practically it get refers to the down. Okay, what is actually this means to you? Okay, when we are start recording, pause for the moment. Okay, let the mic record some of the ambient sound. That means the sound can actually start from the minimal things should record at the first. Okay. And then we slightly increase our volume to the normal level, and then we are put the volume at the sustainable state. Okay. You don't really understand what is exactly happening inside the mic. Okay. Actually, there are inside the mic is not just a record as it is, just as we just press the record and exact the sound that we match. No. Is actually sound records in a really different pattern. Okay, when we are start recording, it attacked the sound. The sound intensity was too much. Okay, then some sort of decay is happen on the sound. Means the sound level is kind of like some sort of decreasing. Then it's sustain. Okay, then we are talking, and mostly the sustain part is kind of like a really bit longer. Attack and decay has to be happen in just like a fraction of seconds. Okay, then sustain position happens, and we can talk, and everything looks really sustained in the end. Okay, and then it release when we shut down our recorder. It just like release the sound. Okay, it just like release the sound, and everything goes really smoother. Okay, so that is called envelope. Okay, don't really get that too much. Okay, envelope is kind of like a things happen when we are dealing with a kind of like a really some sort of sound equipment which is not really upgradable. But right now, some sort of sound equipment that we have right now in position, it is kind of like a really advanced, and and actually they can sustain the microphone sensor quickly as possible. Like attack and decay is happen in just like fraction of second, and mic will sustain in just like fraction of seconds, and then it release also is happened in just like fraction of seconds. So we don't get that too much. We don't get something like this thing. But some sort of older mics are kind of like this thing when we are kind of like know some sort of thing like like when we are understanding like when in the auditorium or someone try to speak, when he just try to speak, the volume is kind of like a really bigger. Yeah, it's like and people get, and another and that is called attack, and decay has happened at that time, and the sound level pitch is kind of like a really much bigger. Okay, but then it will sustain, and it was like a really normal sound. Okay, so basically it happens to the older mics usually, but it doesn't happen to today's mics, because today's mic is kind of like a really advanced version, and they are attacking, and decay is kind of like a quickly those things happen, so it don't get really matter at all. Yeah. Then there is a decibel. What is exactly a decibel? Decibel is a measure of sound intensity. It is used to describe the sound that are in the range of human hearing. The decibel scale started at 0 decibel can be confusing, because when you are using sound equipment, it measures difference city from the human ear. Okay, actually, that is something that we do need to understand for the decibel. Decibel is a kind of like a unit of sound. Okay, and basically what we are hearing is like a 20. Sorry. That we are understanding, we are known about this thing is a frequency, that we are understanding the frequency from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, but it cannot say about the decibel. Okay, so decibel is the measure of sound equipment. Okay, it's a measure of sound. Okay, but that we don't really know about how much decibel we can hear from 0 to how much. So in here it cannot know, but first thing you do need to understand is like decibel is like the measure of sound. Okay, and basically it denotes like a dB. D is a kind of like a small, and B is kind of like a capital. Okay, so that is called dB. Okay, there is scale. Okay, it's like we are confusing. Okay, there is a decibel scale. Okay, so in that scale, there are 0 to 130 decibels. Okay, after that 130 is also, we didn't really know we are hearing after 130 or not. But in the 130, during this 130, we are categorized some sort of sound that we can use, that we can experience in daily life, not daily life, but we can experience these things. Like starting from the zero is like a human hearing, that whatever we can hear is started from zero. Okay, and then is a 10 decibel. 10 decibel, that means we are hearing from the our breathing. Okay, right now you cannot hear my breathing, but actually I can hear my breathing. Okay, and whatever I am hearing my breathing, that means the sound intensity of the breathing is 10 decibel. Okay, then there is quiet room. What is exactly a quiet room? Is has bigger than the breathing. Actually, is actually quiet room has to be lots of things happened, uh, like some sort of things like birds and ambient sound and some sort of traffic is happening outside the room. Because in the empty room there are so many things has to be sound recorded. Yeah, we cannot say it's like quiet room have like a zero decibel. No, 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 there is always something, and it is much bigger than the 10 decibel. Okay, in that particular scale it is represent as a 20 decibel. That means some sort of sound is always happening in the quiet room. Okay, then there is whisper. Whisper means you are whispering in someone ears. Okay, like so that is called whispering. Okay, so when we are whispering, that means we are generating almost like a 30 decibel sound intensity from our mouth. Okay, so yes, then is snoring. Okay, people are kind of like a really uh, uh, know about the snoring. Snoring means when we are sleeping, we are creating some sort of noise. Okay, some sort of sound. Actually, I'm not say we, because I'm not snore actually. I'm just because I'm just running and I'm just try to running while breathing. Okay, so that's why I didn't really snore. But most of the people are snore while sleeping. Okay, and the normal people are snore that has some sort of sound intensity, and that is a 20 decibel intensity. Then there is conversation. When we are conversation with the people, actually it is actually a 50 decibel. Okay, then busy street or alarm clock has also a 60 decibel. Okay, then is a hair dryer and the restaurant noise, that is also represent as a 70 decibel. Loud noise म्हणजे that means we can hear that is too much noise. So that time we are experiencing more than 70 decibels. Okay, almost like a 80 decibels. So that is called the whatever we can hear after 80 decibel is loud. Okay, then there is 90 decibel, that means bass drum, that someone is kind of like a drumming. So it is called bass drum, and actually the sound intensity is 90 decibel. Then we are moved to the 100 decibel, that means the subway train, and subway train is kind of like a bit noisy, and when you are kind of like a really close to them, it's not gonna look, because it has really big sound, and we cannot hear those sounds. Basically base subway trains, or actually local trains also, because in India doesn't have subway train. Okay, but in India has a train, and actually they are much bigger sound.